All right, so we've got some really interesting material to dig into today.
Yeah, for sure. This one is pretty wild.
Yeah, you flagged this, and I gotta say, when I saw this headline, I was like, "What?"
Yeah, you and me both. I mean, rhinos and helicopters. What's the connection, right?
Exactly. So we're talking about the black rhino today, right?
Yeah, black rhinos specifically, their populations, they really took a hit back in the 90s, dipped way down below 2,500.
Wow, that's critically
Oh,
low.
absolutely. It was a dire situation.
Yeah,
But thankfully, they've seen a bit of a rebound lately thanks to a lot of hard work from conservationists.
that's good to hear. But what I'm really curious about is, well, this whole helicopter thing.
Yeah, so the big challenge of black rhinos is that to really protect them and help them thrive, we have to relocate them.
Okay, I can see that being a big undertaking.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean,
Mm.
first of all, you've got poaching to contend with, which is a constant threat.
Right, and these animals are huge.
Exactly. So moving them is no small feat.
So helicopters, I guess that makes sense in a way.
Yeah, it's become an increasingly vital tool, especially in places like South Africa, Namibia, Botswana.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit before helicopters entered the scene. How did they even move rhinos around?
Well, it was a much more, uh, shall we say, hands-on approach.
Hands-on with a rhino. Doesn't sound very appealing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you could say that the traditional method involved darting them to sedate them, and then,
Yeah, like how do you even begin to move an animal that big?
well, they'd wait for the rhino to regain some consciousness, and then try to basically coax it into a crate, a big, strong wooden
Yeah.
crate.
A crate. I can only imagine the logistics of that.
Oh, it was a nightmare, honestly. Trying to get a several-ton animal into a crate and then transporting it by truck over sometimes very rough terrain.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly stressful for the animal.
It was incredibly stressful, not to mention dangerous. There was a real risk of injury during the whole process.
What kind of injuries are we talking about?
Well, everything from muscle damage, from struggling in the crate, to even horn damage.
Yeah.
And sadly, there were cases where their airways would become obstructed during transport, which could be fatal.
Oh, wow. So the whole process was fraught with danger.
And then you have the issue of accessibility. A lot of these rhino habitats are incredibly remote, difficult to reach by road.
So helicopters really changed the game in terms of accessibility.
Oh, absolutely. They provided a much faster and, importantly, less stressful way to relocate these animals.
Okay, I'm picturing a rhino hanging from a helicopter.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's a sight to see. But before we get to that, let's talk about how they actually capture the rhino for transport.
Okay, so it all starts with a dart, right?
Right. Usually a wildlife veterinarian of experience in aerial darting will lean out of the helicopter to administer the immobilizing drugs.
Wow, leaning out of a helicopter? Talk about a high-pressure job?
Yeah, it takes a lot of skill and precision.
Yeah.
Interestingly, they often target younger rhinos or dominant males for relocation.
Oh, why is that?
It's all about maintaining genetic diversity and preventing inbreeding within the populations.
Ah, that makes sense. So they're trying to mix things up a bit.
Exactly. And of course, they have to carefully calculate the dosage of the immobilizing drugs based on the rhino's weight.
What kind of drugs are we talking about?
It's usually a combination of a strong opioid and a tranquilizer to ensure the animal is safely immobilized.
And once the rhino is down, then what?
Well, then a team on the ground and in the air work together to quickly gather data, take measurements, and implant microchips for tracking.
Okay, so now we're getting to the part where they actually lift the rhino.
Right. They carefully secure the rhino's ankles with these big padded straps, which are connected to a rope that's attached to the helicopter.
And then up it goes.
Yeah, pretty much the helicopter hoists the rhino into the air and transports it to a central location, could be a staging area, or directly to the release site.
So this is the part that always gets me way upside down.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive, right?
Sure.
But research has actually shown that this is the safest position for the rhino's breathing.
Seriously, I would have thought that would make it harder to breathe.
It's because of their unique anatomy. Their weight and build actually help to extend their head and neck downwards when they're upside down, which straightens their spine and keeps the airway open.
Wow, that's fascinating. I never would have guessed.
And here's another interesting thing. The rhino's horn actually acts as a kind of stabilizer during the flight.
You mean the very thing that makes them a target for poachers helps them during the rescue?
Exactly. It's like a natural tail fin or a wind vane. It reduces spinning and makes the flight smoother, more aerodynamic.
Wow, talk about irony.
They actually tried other methods in the past, like laying the rhino on a board or securing it in a net, but those proved less effective and sometimes even more dangerous.
So what kind of helicopters are they using for these rhino airlifts?
Two main ones, the Airbus AS350 S-Star, it's nicknamed the Squirrel, and it's a good size for the job, cost-effective, and pretty widely available.
The squirrel, that's kind of cute for such a powerful machine.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and then there's the more iconic UH-1H Huey.
Wait, the Huey, as in the helicopter from the Vietnam War?
The one and only, some of them still have patches over bullet holes and stuff.
Wow, so these helicopters have seen some action.
Oh yeah, they're workhorses, incredibly powerful lifters. Fun fact, the sound of the Huey's rotors was actually a comforting sound for soldiers during the war, meant help was on the way.
And now they're helping rhinos. That's pretty amazing.
It's a remarkable turnaround from being used in conflict to being used for conservation.
And it's kind of ironic considering that poachers used helicopters to hunt rhinos back in the 80s.
Yeah, it really highlights how things can change and how technology can be used for both good and bad purposes.
So all this effort, all this technology, is it actually making a difference for the black rhino population?
It really seems to be, for example, in Namibia's Kune region, black rhinos were almost completely wiped out. But thanks to airlifts, they've been able to reestablish a presence in this very rugged mountainous area.
Wow, so the helicopters really opened up new possibilities for conservation.
Absolutely. And there were some larger initiatives as well, like the Rhinos Without Borders project.
What's that one all about?
It started in 2014 with the goal of moving 100 rhinos from South Africa to Botswana.
Why Botswana?
Botswana has a much lower poaching rate. They've been very successful in protecting their rhino population.
What's their secret?
Well, for one thing, they have a well-funded and highly trained military that's allowed to use lethal force against poachers.
Well, they don't mess around.
Nope, they're serious about protecting their wildlife. And Botswana also has a lower human population density and vast areas that are inaccessible by road, which makes it harder for poachers to operate.
Makes sense. So it's kind of like a rhino safe haven.
Exactly. And the Rhinos Without Borders project has already moved a good number of rhinos, though it's not cheap. It costs about $45,000 to a rhino to relocate them.
$45,000 per rhino? That's a lot of money.
It is. But it shows just how committed these conservationists are to saving these animals.
And it really highlights the severity of the poaching problem.
Absolutely. Rhino poaching reached a crisis point in 2015. Over 1,300 rhinos were poached across Africa, most of them in South Africa.
It's so sad, and all because of this unfounded belief that rhino horn has medicinal properties.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, really. Rhino horn is made of keratin, the same stuff as our fingernails. It has no proven medicinal value whatsoever.
But that hasn't stopped the black market demand.
Unfortunately not, which is why relocating rhinos to safer areas, disrupting poaching networks is so important.
And establishing those new populations in places like Botswana.
Exactly. It's all about giving these animals a fighting chance for the future. And Botswana has seen some real success. Their rhino population has grown from under 100 to around 170, with a goal of reaching 400.
That's encouraging to hear. So it sounds like these relocation efforts are having a positive impact.
They definitely seem to be, but it's an ongoing battle, and there's still a lot of challenges ahead.
And some pretty drastic measures being considered. I've even heard about dehorning.
Yeah, that's a controversial one, surgically removing the rhino's horn to make them less attractive to poachers.
I can see how that would be effective, but it also seems kind of sad.
There are definitely pros and cons to it. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
So it's a balancing act, weighing the potential benefits against the ethical concerns.
And of course, there are also concerns about the cost and environmental impact of using helicopters so extensively.
Yeah, that's a valid point. But I guess for many, the urgency of saving these animals outweighs those concerns.
That's the argument many conservationists make, that the obligation to protect critically endangered species like rhinos justifies these extraordinary measures.
And you can't really argue with that. Rhinos have been around for millions of years. We can't let them disappear on our watch.
Exactly. It's our responsibility to do everything we can to ensure their survival.
Well, it's been fascinating learning about this unique and, frankly, quite surprising use of helicopters in conservation.
Yeah, who would have thought that these machines once associated with war would now be playing such a crucial role in saving rhinos?
It's a testament to human ingenuity and our capacity to adapt and use technology for good.
It's also a reminder that we need to be constantly innovating and finding new ways to protect our planet and the creatures that inhabit it.
And who knows what other amazing applications of technology we might see in the future.
The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes this field so exciting.
Well said. On that note, for our listeners who want to delve deeper into the world of rhino conservation, be sure to follow meteorologist Rob Jones on Instagram at meteorologist.
You can also find him on TikTok at TV Meteorologist.
And on YouTube, search for Rob Jones Hurricane, where you'll find the Meteorology Matters podcast playlist and tons of other fascinating content.
And as you go about your day, we leave you with this thought: what other unexpected intersections of technology and conservation might emerge in the years to come? Food or thought.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Until next time.